How did Joseph Stalin, one of history's most ruthless dictators, become an advocate for peace in the aftermath of World War II? The post-war era thrust us into a paradox that's as baffling as it is intriguing. Here we had Stalin, a man infamous for his tyrannical rule, initiating what he called a peace offensive. This was a time when the world was reeling from the devastation of the war, when alliances were strained and the threat of another global conflict loomed large. Amidst this chaos, Stalin sought to ease tensions with the Western Allies, fostering collaboration and rebuilding international relationships. It's a move that seems in stark contrast to his reputation, a move that might have been dismissed as political posturing. But we're not here to dismiss. We're here to delve deeper. Through this video, we'll explore the strategy, the impact, and the lasting legacy of Stalin's peace offensive. So, let's embark on this journey to unravel the enigma of Stalin's peace offensive. The year is 1945, World War II has ended, and the world is left in ruins. From the ashes of this global conflict, a new order began to take shape. Europe, once a battlefield, was split into two spheres of influence: the Western democracies led by the United States and the United Kingdom, and the Eastern Bloc under the control of the Soviet Union. Amid this tense geopolitical climate, Soviet leader Joseph Stalin initiated what is now known as his peace offensive. Stalin's peace offensive was not a spontaneous act of goodwill. It was, in fact, a calculated political move born out of necessity. The world had been ravaged by the most devastating war in human history, and the Soviet Union, despite emerging as one of the victors, had suffered tremendous losses. The country was in dire need of reconstruction, and for that it needed peace. The peace offensive began with a series of diplomatic overtures towards the Western Allies. Stalin, known for his pragmatic approach to politics, understood that the Soviet Union could not stand alone in a world that was rapidly polarizing. He saw the need to mend fences with the West, to ease the tensions that had been simmering since the end of the war. Key events leading up to the peace offensive included the Potsdam Conference, where Stalin, President Truman, and Prime Minister Churchill came together to discuss the post-war order. Here, Stalin showed a willingness to cooperate with the West, a marked departure from his earlier confrontational stance. This was followed by a series of diplomatic exchanges and peace treaties with countries such as Finland, Romania, and Bulgaria, signaling a shift in the Soviet Union's foreign policy. However, Stalin's peace offensive was not without its critics. Many in the West viewed it with skepticism, seeing it as a mere propaganda tool designed to mask the Soviet Union's expansionist ambitions. Yet, from a historical perspective, it was a significant move that marked a brief thaw in the Cold War tensions. Stalin's peace offensive was a diplomatic maneuver that aimed to rebuild international relationships. It was a strategy born out of necessity, a pragmatic response to the realities of a post-war world. What was Stalin's strategy behind this peace offensive, you may ask? Well, let's delve into the strategic motives behind this enigmatic move. In the aftermath of World War II, the world was teetering on the brink of another potential catastrophe as tensions between the Western Allies and the Soviet Union escalated. Stalin, known for his keen strategic mind, recognized the potential for a disastrous confrontation. He needed a way to defuse the situation without appearing weak or compromising the interests of the Soviet Union. This is where the peace offensive came into play. Stalin's peace offensive was a response to the Western Allies' policies and actions. The Western Allies, particularly the United States and Great Britain, were increasingly wary of the Soviet Union's growing power and influence. They had started to implement policies aimed at containing the spread of communism, which was perceived as a direct threat to their democratic ideals and global interests. Stalin, aware of this mounting opposition, launched his peace offensive as a countermove. He sought to ease tensions and foster collaboration by extending an olive branch to the Western Allies. This was not just about avoiding another war, but also about creating a favorable environment for the Soviet Union to thrive and expand its influence. However, it's important to note that the peace offensive was not just a simple plea for peace, it was a strategic maneuver, carefully calculated to achieve certain goals. Stalin used it as a tool to expose the Western Allies' aggressive policies and to rally support from other nations. He wanted to position the Soviet Union as a peace-loving nation, in contrast to the Western allies whom he portrayed as warmongers. Moreover, the peace offensive was also a way for Stalin to buy time. He needed time to rebuild the Soviet Union's economy and military strength after the devastating effects of the war. By promoting peace, he was able to focus on domestic affairs while keeping the international threats at bay. In essence, the peace offensive was a chess game on the international stage. Stalin was a master strategist, and every move he made was aimed at securing the best possible position for the Soviet Union. Did Stalin's peace offensive achieve its intended goals? This question is a point of contention amongst historians, and the answer isn't as clear-cut as it might seem. Stalin's peace offensive was, first and foremost, about restoring international relations and easing tensions with the Western allies. In this regard, it had some measure of success. The immediate post-war period saw a thawing of relations between the Soviet Union and the Western allies. Diplomatic channels reopened, and there were initial steps towards collaboration. But it wasn't all plain sailing. The peace offensive was also met with skepticism and suspicion. Stalin's previous actions, such as the purges and the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, cast a long shadow over his intentions. The Western allies were wary, and this wariness would eventually crystallize into the Cold War. The peace offensive also had unintended consequences. Stalin's efforts to extend an olive branch to the West were interpreted by some as a sign of weakness. This perception emboldened anti-Soviet forces and led to a hardening of attitudes within the Soviet Union itself. Moreover, the peace offensive exacerbated ideological differences between the Soviet Union and the West. Stalin's vision of peace was a world where communism reigned supreme. The Western allies had a different view. They saw a world where democracy and capitalism were the dominant forces. These divergent worldviews were incompatible and would become a significant source of tension in the ensuing years. So, did Stalin's peace offensive achieve its intended goals? Partially, yes. It did help to ease tensions and foster some level of collaboration, but it also had unintended consequences and led to a backlash that would shape the geopolitical landscape for decades to come. Stalin's peace offensive left a lasting imprint on the post-war world. Its impacts were far-reaching and continue to be felt to this day. The peace offensive was a pivotal moment in history, one that set the stage for the Cold War and the world as we know it today. Why does Stalin's peace offensive matter today? In the grand tapestry of world history, the threads of past events weave themselves into the fabric of the present. Stalin's peace offensive of the post-war era is one such thread. It is a lesson in diplomacy, a case study in power dynamics, and a testament to the complexity of international relations. The peace offensive was a pivotal moment that shaped the geopolitical landscape of the second half of the 20th century. It marked a shift from the grim brutality of war to the intricate dance of diplomacy. Stalin's maneuvering helped to define the nature of the Cold War, a conflict that was more about veiled threats and political posturing than outright warfare. But beyond the historical significance, Stalin's peace offensive also carries a relevance to contemporary diplomatic strategies. It showcased the power of diplomacy as a tool for shaping international relations. Even in the face of deep-seated mistrust and ideological differences, Stalin sought to foster collaboration and rebuild relationships. It was a demonstration of how diplomacy can be used to ease tensions and navigate the complex web of international politics. Moreover, the peace offensive offers valuable insights into the nature of peace initiatives. Peace, as we've learned, is not merely the absence of war. It is a meticulous process of negotiation, compromise, and reconciliation. The peace offensive was not just about ending hostilities, it was about creating an environment conducive to cooperation and mutual respect. So why does Stalin's peace offensive matter today? Because it serves as a reminder that peace is not a passive state, but an active endeavor. It underscores the importance of diplomacy in mitigating conflicts and fostering global harmony. It provides us with historical context to understand present-day international relations and offers lessons that can guide future peace initiatives. History, as we see, often throws up paradoxes that challenge our understanding. And it is through these paradoxes that we gain a deeper comprehension of the world and our place within it. Stalin's peace offensive was a historical paradox, a maneuver that continues to intrigue historians. This diplomatic initiative, launched in the wake of the devastation of World War II, was a strategic move designed to rebuild international relationships and foster collaboration. Its purpose was not just to restore peace in a war-torn world, but also to strategically position the Soviet Union in the new global order. The impact of this peace offensive was far-reaching. It eased tensions with Western allies, redefined the dynamics of international politics, and set the stage for the Cold War era. Yet the very nature of this peace offensive, its strategic underpinnings, and the ultimate goals it served, continue to be subjects of debate and reflection among historians. As we delve into history, we uncover layers of complexity that challenge our perceptions of the past, and so the enigma of Stalin's peace offensive continues.